So we've owned this farm since 1929 and we're still here.
I've been farming all my life really. From when I can first remember, we just had chickens and about 20 cows, which could make a family a living really easily. You
know, we look after our animals, don't look after ourselves. That's common, that's common. You know, your animals are the most important thing. Yeah. There's so many dangers on a farm. We're 25 times more likely to die while you're farming. Falling from roofs, getting injured and killed by cattle, things falling on us, all sorts of things. We're also third most prevalent industry for suicide. My grandfather moved down from Wales when my father was 6, and my grandfather bought this farm. And my father took over from his father, then we took over from Dad when he was retired in 1978. So we've owned this farm since 1929 and we're still here. I'm Andrew Bebb, an organic dairy farmer. I've farmed all my life and I'm 64, I'll be 65 in August. Farming partnership with my brother, he does the milking and I do pretty well everything else. Do all the books and what have you, keep all the most of the paper records, which are getting more onerous as the years go by. With farm assurance, the way it is, we've got to do an awful lot of paperwork and do a lot of tick box exercising to comply with the legislation and everything else. And things are getting tougher, you know. Environmental pollution. We're looking at sequestrating more carbon in the soils. On the farm, we're looking at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, so there's an awful lot going on just at the moment. But farmers normally sort of take on the farms from their fathers. It's because there's so much money. I mean, it's probably £3 million tied up in this farm, 3 million plus, but you never see it. You only see it when you die, is what you sell up. So yeah, you need that sort of investment. That's why it's so difficult for people outside the farming industry to get into farming, because you need such a lot of capital money to get started. You know, you need a farm. If you don't buy a farm, you need to rent a farm, but you still need money to stock the farm if it's going to be a livestock farm. And if it's going to be an arable farm, you still need to buy the equipment, the tractors and what have you, to enable you to do the job.
My name's Norman Evans. I live at Melvley Farm, Rowton, Shropshire. I've been farming all my life really. My mum and dad were farmers. We started on a council smallholding by Shrewsbury and then gradually bought a bigger farm and then a bit more land. From when I can first remember, we just had chickens and about 20 cows, which could make a family a living really easily. Well, I'd be back in, I could just about remember the end of the 40s, I suppose, mainly the 50s. But now, even if you've got 500 cows, it's relatively difficult for a family to make a living. And, anybody young enough to start farming now almost needs so much money that you could retire before you start. I suppose farmers have always had a bit more of a cavalier attitude, and I don't even know my doctor's name. You know, it's quite dangerous work in many ways, but equally, like, you know, if you live out in the fresh air, like it's quite, you know, like lots of people fancy being farmers. I suppose it's just your luck with mental health type of issues, but obviously if things are not going well or you're not making much money and you're working really hard, it'll obviously get you down eventually.
We're the third most prevalent industry for suicide in that table. We're behind vets and doctors and just above dentists, because they've got the drugs, you see. Doctors and vets have got the drugs. Farmers just have short bits of ropes and shotguns. the returns aren't brilliant. They fluctuate, like the weather fluctuates really. Our costs have escalated like any other industry since Russia invaded Ukraine. So our feed costs have gone up by sort of 30%, and the milk price unfortunately hasn't gone up as in the same proportion. So we've been selling we've not been making a lot of money on the selling milk, which is our main sort of money earner. So things have been tough. They've been very tough the last couple of years, but probably, you know, I've been in partnership for 45 years. Probably the last 12 months have been the toughest 12 months we've had in 45 years.
My name is Jo Blackburn. I'm a Community Wellbeing Outreach Officer within Public Health for Shropshire Council, and today we're at the livestock market in Shrewsbury. We're currently in the Wellbeing Hub, which is a mobile clinic that is used for outreach in the community. It's a real mixture of reasons why people come. The overarching thing is for blood pressure, but actually sometimes that's a wee smoke screen because they actually want to come talk to me about something else. We have some fantastic support from Shropshire Rural Support. They talk about the stress around farming, especially around paperwork, inspections such as red tractor, TB testing, prices of the stock, you know, the general things you can imagine. There's also some worries around the single farm payment because obviously we've left the EU. So some issues around that as well. And like I say, there's quite a lot of bereaved folks that come and talk to me about that. And diabetes, that's very well talked about. And also we are cancer champions, and people come and talk to us about some cancer worries, and being highly populated with men naturally, there's a lot of chat about prostate cancer, and we talk about symptoms and signs and how to get diagnosed and testing.
Shropshire Support supports anybody that's under stress, that's perhaps suffered a bereavement, perhaps has got some mental health issues. You just anything to do with farming and the agricultural community we tend to get involved with. If anybody has stress, it's just a confidential helpline that you can ring up and speak to a volunteer. Sometimes you never meet the volunteer. We just do whatever you'd like us to do. If you want us to come out on farm and meet you, that's great. If you don't want to meet us because you don't want the wife to know or something, that's fine as well. So the beauty about the mobile phone these days is that you can have that private conversation with somebody that's perhaps in the lambing shed or they're outside on the tractor, and you know, without anybody else knowing. So it is purely confidential, entirely confidential. Nothing moves very quickly in the countryside, so attitudes don't change. But it's part of our remit is to flag up and destigmatise mental health. If we go back to when we started in 1990, there was so much stigma around suicide and around mental health issues. But I mean, we can all suffer at some stage during our lives from depression. We can all have highs and lows, and so it does affect us all.
Because it's quite a sensitive subject, it wouldn't be appropriate for us to come with a great big banner that says, let's talk about your mental health, because the engagement wouldn't happen. So also as part of that, alongside this, we are working on cardiovascular disease case finding. So as a team, we come and take blood pressures, so we are able to refer on through the pathway for people with high blood pressures, give them some lifestyle advice and signpost them on. But this is also an opportunity to make every contact count. So it's an opportunity to just ask people how they are, how they're feeling. And some people just want to come and talk about what's going on in their lives, and for them that's enough, and they feel as though they've been listened to, and they go away feeling better just for discussing what's going on with them.